Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back. Today we begin a critical examination of traditional interpretations regarding the, quote, second coming of Christ, specifically as presented by Gregg. Now, while Mr. Gregg is a respected voice, we must all hold doctrines, including our own, to the highest standards of scriptural fidelity and sound hermeneutics. On page 6 of his work, Why Not Full Preterism, Mr. Gregg acknowledges rather tellingly that the actual term, quote, second coming isn't found anywhere in Scripture. He states that, quote, the concept is believed to be referred to in a number of passages, end quote. This, unfortunately, is a classic admission and example of eisegesis, reading a preconceived concept into the text rather than allowing the text to define the concept for itself. His description of the second coming as a complex event involving numerous unprecedented features, end quote, traditionally understood further reveals a reliance on inherited tradition rather than a purely exegetical approach. Mr. Gregg offers Matthew 13:41 as one of the 15 scriptures he believes supports his traditional view. Let's analyze this verse within its proper context, using the hermeneutical principle of Scripture interpreting Scripture and considering audience relevance. Matthew 13:41 reads, quote, the Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all things that offend and those who practice lawlessness. Now, to understand this, we must look at the entire parable of the wheat and the tares from Matthew 13, verses 37 to 43. Quote, he answered and said to them, he who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, the good seeds are the sons of the kingdom, but the tares are the sons of the wicked one. The enemy who sowed them is the devil, and the harvest is at the end of this age, and the reapers are the angels. Therefore, as the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of this age. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and those who practice lawlessness, and will cast them into the furnace of fire. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears, let him hear, end quote. Notice the critical phrase in verses 39 and 40, the end of the age, where Mr. Gregg and many traditional interpreters presume this refers to the end of the physical world or our present age. The Jewish understanding of their time recognized only two ages, this age, referring to the Old Covenant era, and the age to come, which was the Messianic age. Jesus himself confirms this distinction in Matthew 12:32, speaking of forgiveness, quote, either in this age or in the age to come. He was speaking to a generation still living under the Old Covenant, anticipating its conclusion and the full inauguration of the new. Therefore, when Matthew 13:41 speaks of angels gathering out of his kingdom at the end of this age, we must understand it within that eschatological framework, the transition from the old covenant to the fully established new. This understanding is powerfully reinforced by other passages. Consider Matthew 24:31 and 34. Jesus says, quote, and he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. And just a few verses later, assuredly, I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. The sending of angels to gather the elect is explicitly tied by Jesus to this generation. That's his generation, the very generation he was speaking to. To suggest Matthew 13:41 refers to a future worldwide event, while Matthew 24:31 to 34, describing a similar angelic gathering, is bound by a this generation time frame, is to introduce an inconsistency when none exist. Furthermore, Matthew 16:27 to 28 states, for the Son of Man will come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he will reward each according to his works. Assuredly, I say to you, there are some standing here who shall not taste death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Here, Jesus not only uses the Greek term mello, indicating imminence, about to happen, but unequivocally states that some standing here would not die before witnessing his coming in his kingdom. This directly contradicts any interpretation that places these events millennia in the future. Finally, Matthew 13:43, where, quote, the righteous will shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father, finds its direct parallel in Daniel 12:1-3. This Old Testament prophecy describes a time of unparalleled trouble, a deliverance for God's people, a resurrection out from the dead, specifically the Old Covenant dead out of Sheol for judgment and reward, and the wise shining like the brightness of the firmament. And Daniel 12:7 gives us the crucial timing. It shall be for a time, times, and half a time, and when the power of the holy people has been completely shattered, all these things shall be finished, end quote. The power of the holy people, referring to the Old Covenant Israel, was indeed shattered during the Roman Jewish War, culminating in the destruction of Jerusalem and its temple between AD 66 and 70. And it was at this parousia of Christ, this coming, that the Old Covenant age definitively ended. The separation and judgment occurred and the righteous shone forth. When Mr. Gregg interprets Matthew 13:41 as proof for a traditional second coming that is still future and physical for the entire planet, he not only ignores the clear temporal indicators embedded in the text itself, end of this age, this generation about to come, some standing here, but he also fails to apply the hermeneutics of Scripture interpreting Scripture, disconnecting these passages from their immediate and contextual parallels in Matthew and Daniel. This constitutes a fundamental misapplication of the text, prioritizing a traditional doctrine over careful exegesis. In summary, Matthew 13:41, far from supporting a distant future second coming of Christ to the end of the physical world, describes a localized covenantal judgment separation that was imminent to Jesus' generation, fulfilled with his parousia in AD 70, marking the complete transition from the Old Covenant age to the fully established New Covenant. Now, this brings us to a significant logical fallacy in Mr. Gregg's approach. He is committing an anachronism by imposing a modern understanding of end of the world onto a first-century Jewish concept of end of the age. This leads to a category error, misinterpreting the nature and scope of the prophetic fulfillment. Now, we have only just begun. In our next session, we will continue to examine Mr. Gregg's other proof texts for the traditional second coming, and demonstrate how, through careful exegesis and attention to historical context, they too point to a fulfillment within the first century. Thank you. Please comment down below, and if you haven't, please subscribe, especially if you've been watching the videos but haven't subscribed yet. I'd be greatly honored if you did. And if you can, please share my content with others. I'm trying to grow the channel. We are now at 315 subscribers, and I'm perfectly delighted. My goal is 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and with God's help and with yours, I'm sure we can make it. Thanks very much.